In the name of Allah, who is the most beneficent and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Wordsworth and the Romantic Movement. Describing the origin of the lyrical ballads in his Biographia Literaria, Coleridge points out the kinds of poetry the two poets had aimed at. In the poems of Coleridge, the characters and incidents were in part at least supernatural, yet possessing human interest. Wordsworth, on the other hand, was to deal with persons and objects of every day, but in such a way as to give them the charm of novelty by awakening the mind from the lethargy of custom and directing it to the loveliness and the wonder of the world before us. An inexhaustible treasure, but for which, in consequence of the film of familiarity, we have eyes yet see not, ears that hear not, and hearts that neither feel nor understand. Wordsworth, in his preface to the second edition of the Lyrical Ballads, 1800, explains his object. The principal object proposed in these poems was to choose incidents and situations from common life and to describe them throughout, as far as possible, in a selection of language actually used by men. At the same time, to throw over them a certain colouring of imagination whereby ordinary things should be presented to the mind in an unusual aspect. He chose humble and rustic life, he goes on to explain, because in that condition the essential nature of humanity finds a more congenial soil to grow and to express itself more naturally and freely than is possible in sophisticated atmosphere of the town. To deal with the supernatural, the shadows of imagination, to deal with nature and rustic life, and that too in colloquial language of rustics, all this ran counter to the principles and practice of the Augustan school with its insistence upon civilized interests of town life rendered in a formal phraseology. The most important point to note in the Romantic poetry is the emphasis on imagination. Though working in two different directions, the supernatural and the natural, the two poets were to achieve the desired result through one and the same instrument, that of imagination.